Hello, I'm Anne. I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel, Yin-tuition. I wanted to just briefly give you a little sense of who I am, what my background is, and tell you what the heck Yin-tuition is. So I am a yoga teacher. I actually originally used to work in healthcare, had a very different life, but because of various life changes, I ended up teaching yoga about 20 years ago, and I started teaching yin yoga specifically about 15 years ago. And when I began teaching yin, I truly just fell in love. I fell in love with the practice, but I also fell in love with the philosophies that really underlie yin yoga, and that is namely Taoism and traditional Chinese medicine and five-element theory. So as I started to teach, I became more curious about, well, what is yin energy? And you probably have heard of how most people say it, yin and yang. It's more appropriately pronounced yang. These are the two polar energies, interdependent, connected, opposite and yet interdependent and connected forces in the universe. So yang energy is the active doing, external, acts upon the outer world, is responsible for a lot of creating the world we see. And it's faster energy. It's all about doing. Yin energy is the complement. It is about not doing. It is about softening and relaxing and letting go. It's really the path of surrender. It's about becoming receptive. And both very important, both needed. I was obviously particularly curious about yin energy because we live in a very yang culture, and I have a lot of yang qualities. I am a doer. I like to achieve and get things done, and that served me well in many regards throughout my life. But as I started to learn more about what is this yin energy and what does it mean to not do or to be in this state of surrender, as I started to understand and lean into this, mostly through the process of meditation, also through yin yoga, I started to notice that the more I meditated, the more I softened, got out of the head and dropped into presence, the more often I was in that state of presence, I started to notice a lot more coincidences. Things would just unfold. I would have all these kind of magical synchronicities and insights, just kind of things would just pop into my head, including creating this channel. So there is a definite link between quieting, stilling, softening, allowing, becoming receptive, and being open to receiving intuitive messages. In fact, it's really the only way. You can't, in this noisy world where all this stuff is coming at us and we're constantly distracted, we're constantly overloaded and staying up in our head, thinking thoughts, multiple thoughts, that space is too busy for this very subtle message to come through. It is a form of very subtle energy. So you will only have access to it when you do slow down, when you do make space, when you do get quiet and reflective. And that's hard for a lot of us to do in this 21st century. So I want to offer you some practices and teachings and wisdom of how to do that, how to become more yin-like, and how to open up that channel of intuition, of higher guidance. And I really feel that, in these times, which are incredibly challenging and scary, that this is a skill that is essential. It really, to me, is the number one 21st century skill, to be able to quiet and still ourselves that alone is significant, but also to tap into wisdom that comes from a higher place, not from the analytical mind or from the ego that tries to be in control and believes it knows the way. Sometimes maybe that's effective, but ultimately, if we only rely on that, we miss a lot of opportunities. We have less creative inspiration. We also tend to struggle more. When we're up in our head and in our ego, moving around the world, that is stressful. When we relax and really feel our connection to something greater than this sense of separate self, whether you call that the quantum field, the unified awareness or unified consciousness, the state of non-duality, the state of presence. When we drop into that state, life is actually easier. We're not working from that place of stress, from fear. We feel supported, we feel inspired, we feel creative, and we get to enjoy the magic and the playfulness of the spirit world. So, it's interesting. If you all know Kim on Intuitive View, she always talks about with spirit, we often have to trust first and get the evidence later, which is unfamiliar with the scientific messages. Like, show me the proof, show me the evidence, and then I'll believe. With spirit and with trusting our intuition, it's kind of the other way around. We have to be willing to suspend our disbelief, and then all this evidence shows up, and it shows up in these interesting and unique ways, sometimes through a purest direct download, sometimes through synchronicity. You keep seeing a certain thing over and over again, or you keep getting the same message over again, or maybe you get a message from some song lyrics like I did. And if you haven't already seen my video about hearing classic rock songs in a sacred Indian cave, be sure to watch that. I've linked it down below. So this channel, let me back up. So Yin-tuition really is the insight and guidance that we have access to when we allow ourselves to quiet, to soften, to surrender, to trust, and then we receive. So this channel will help you do that. And I'm going to share a lot of different practices that I've developed over the years, both teaching yin yoga as well as developing my intuition. Some of it will be yoga practices. We'll have some asana, we'll have a lot of breath work, and even a little acupressure and qigong to help us drop into that deeper, more surrendered state. Certainly a lot of guided meditations. And I will also offer you some tools and strategies to help you develop and strengthen your intuition, because I really feel, given where we're at right now, this is vitally important. Not only do we need to be able to ascertain for ourselves what is truth, because it's very confusing today. People are saying all kinds of things are true, and we have to know internally be able to discern what is true and right for us. We also need that support and guidance from being connected. And intuition truly is our connection to the field, to spirit, to source. It's how it speaks to us. And we also really need to, in this kind of crazy time, we need to, own our inner authority. I think we're often looking, outward to find out what to do, what to believe. And I think it's become more and more important that we discern that, within, that we go within for the answers. So I hope you will join me. It will be an interesting journey. I'm really trying to approach this from a connected and guided and less egoic way. So we'll see how that goes. And I will share my experience in doing that. And I hope to be putting out videos weekly. And like I said, it'll be a combination of practices and just wisdom that I have gleaned over the years. So I am excited. I hope you will be a part of it. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.